everybody.
Good morning.
I hope everybody's happy this morning, joyful, and full of the love that we have when we come to talk to Jesus Christ and worship Him. Now, last Sunday morning, I made a comment, and I guess it was a little bit premature in saying this comment, but I said that I was planning something special that for this morning that involved my son. And I had not had an opportunity to talk to him about what I had in my mind. And when I did sit down and talk to him, I found out that it was not possible to be able to do what I had in mind. So I guess it was, this is my fault. And I think he will agree with me, for a change, that my mother happened to be one of the better musicians that I have ever known. She could play the organ and the piano. Very accomplished. Very accomplished. Not only she would go to a small church ever since I can remember, except when we were going to my home church, which was Bellevue, Pennsylvania. Mom would be the one that would be playing the piano. They helped start the church in Oval, Pennsylvania, and Mom played the piano. They helped start the church in North Hills, Pennsylvania, and Mom played the piano. When she went down to live in Clearwater, Florida, then Mom would play the piano. So it just so happened that about a year or several months before she passed away, Steve was just beginning to get involved with campers, movie campers, and so forth. And he had the opportunity of going to Canton, Ohio, where Mom was staying in one of our homes up there. And he had her sit down at her organ. Now, you have to really see Mom's organ. A lot of churches would be very envious to have the organ that Mom had. I mean, it was large, huge. She played for about a half hour to 45 minutes. And Steve recorded that on his camera. Now, what I was going to do is have him pick out a hymn or two that Mom played and try to have it played this morning in tribute of my mother. And I think you all would have enjoyed it. But Steve says he doesn't know where the tape is. And even if he did know where the tape was, he didn't think that as old as the tape was, that it could be used. So I do apologize for making that comment. But I'm going to let you, if you have anything that you would like to say about your mom, you have this opportunity. Just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Yes.
As long as I can remember, my mom was always teaching us about the Bible, who my Savior was. I needed her for anything. She said, well, let's pray about it. And even to this day, every day I get up before I go to work, she said, it's going to be a beautiful, blessed day. Give the thanks to the Lord and Jesus for being our Savior. So, I truly, sorry, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
And I did pass it to my children to pray for them. They don't practice being Christians anymore. So just praise for my children.
Now, my mother tried to teach me to play the piano. But I never could get my left hand to agree with my right hand. And that included everything I did, whether I had to have cooperation. I'm not a typist because I can't get my left hand is quicker responding than my right hand. That might sound strange. And I know I can play on my left hand, play with my right hand, but I can't put them together. So, but I know a little bit about playing the piano. Any others? Ever since I decided on this particular series of a changeless Christ for a changing world. I had in my mind what I wanted to accomplish as far as the service today. I wasn't sure how I was going to accomplish it, in what direction I was going to take. At one time, I thought about taking all the women of the Bible that I could think of and picking out one thing in their life that we need to do as far as our love of God and love of Christ is concerned. And I gave that up because it was too limited volume. I can't say the word to do it. So I have to honestly admit that I went to one of the websites where you can buy sermons. I didn't buy. I just looked for ideas. And I came up with several thoughts there, and one of the things I saw on this website was things my mother taught me. I don't know how many of you already jumped the gun and read what this is, but down at the bottom of the first page of the notes that I have, you have a column that says, "My mother taught us." And then how she taught us those things. I want you to look at that if you will. It's at the bottom of this page. But she taught us how to be logical. She taught us logic. And I can remember my wife telling my kids things similar to this. Because my wife would say, if you get hurt, you're not going to be able to do this. Now, notice what I have here. But if you fall off that swing and break your neck, you can't go to the store with me. Or if everybody jumped off the cliff, would you still do it too? That doesn't mean anything, because I had a funeral of a 14-year-old boy who was either pushed, accidentally slipped, or jumped off a cliff. She taught us how to be humorous. When that lawnmower cuts off your toes, don't come running to me. I remember my mom telling me similar things. I had never mowed grass, but my dad was one that believed that you don't mow grass, you sickle it. And I remember Mom telling me one time, now be careful how you swing that sickle. You're liable to chop off your brother's leg. And then what's he going to do? He taught us genetics. You're just like your father. Anticipation. Just wait until your daddy gets home. How many times have you mothers told your kids that? Just wait till your daddy gets home. He talked to us receiving. You're going to get it when you get home. Get what? You know. It taught us religion. You better pray that that comes out of that carpet. Taught us about stamina. And Steve, I'm going to use you in this one. You sit there until all that spinach is eaten. Steve would do, this plate oftentimes become perfectly clean when we pulled that in. Come to find out years later that he couldn't wait till we left the room where we ate so he could take his dish and scrape it off into the dog's dish. Tell us about the circle of life, a circle of life. I brought you into this world, I can take you out. Tell us about justice. One day you will have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. Then you see what it's like. I can't wait. And possibly some of you can add to that. But one of the things that, why this caught my attention, is that What are some of the things that biblical mothers have taught us? About love. About our relationship to God. About our continuing to walk the Christian life. The one woman that has developed on my mind throughout this week, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to say about her, was the mother Hannah. And I have very seldom preached about Hannah. For one reason, I cannot pronounce her husband's name, Elkanah. I think I'm pretty close there. Nor his other wife's name, which was Peninnah. I guess that's the right name. But they lived about 1,100 years before Christ. And there was friction in that family, as there are many times, especially when there's two women under one roof. And that friction came because Hannah was barren when 1 Samuel opens. The family would eventually go to Jerusalem once a year in order to be able to worship God. Hannah would go, and Elkanah's other wife had children, and they would all go. And Peninnah, whatever her name is, treated her very viciously. Insults. Would claim that God didn't love her because he never opened her womb to have children. I'm not sure what it was. And Hannah was very, very distressed. And this one time when she went there, she went to the altar there to pray. And she made a comment, a commitment to God. If you give me a son, I will give him to you for your service. God gave her a son. And that son's name was Samuel. Who, after he was weaned, could eat solid food. She brought him to the temple and gave her son to Eli. And Eli gave all that he could to Samuel. Now Eli had children. But he had, his children turned out to be typical. I'm not saying, I don't mean this really. We turned out to be what we normally say, PKs, preacher kids. As you look at the first several chapters of the book of 1 Samuel, there are things that Hannah had in her life that demonstrated her relationship to God. That I think we apply to our lives. And men, even though this is a woman, I think her life, speaking for itself, these traits that I'm going to bring up can be applied to our lives as well as men. Not only do I think she set the standard for the woman of the world today, but I think she set a standard for us today as well. Now, the very first thing that I see about Hannah, as I have already given you a brief summary of her life, I find that Hannah did not allow the burdens that she had to bear to interfere with her relationship to God. And if you look in the 6th verse, it said that her adversary, which was Elkanah's other wife, provoked her for her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. Can you imagine what it would be like to live in a house where you're considered to be the favorite of the husband, but the other woman will not let it rest, and continually made things hard for her? I have noticed many people that little things would interfere with their spiritual life. After the video this morning, and by the way, I thought it was a good video, we got talking a little bit about relationships between husband and wife. And I made a comment that sometimes divorce is the only answer to certain situations. In fact, when I was preaching in Titusville, Pennsylvania, I had a couple come to me, and they were going through the process of divorce. And the big issue that they wanted to resolve was custody of the little girl, beautiful little girl. And I wasn't like Solomon, who says we can cut the girl in half and you can have half and so forth. But I did say the best thing you can do for your child is put her up for adoption. I thought I was going to get thrown out of my own house. They eventually got back together because of what I said. Shocked they were at me. And raised that child in the church. And when the child graduated from high school, they went their separate ways. I don't know how well the child did with all that going on. But Hannah never once allowed what was going on in that home to interfere with her relationship with God. How do I know this? For the simple reason, the next thing she did, she took her burdens to the Lord in prayer. When they were down to Jerusalem in order to be able to their annual trip to the temple there. And as they were there, she went off by herself and she began to pray to God about the fact that He did not open her womb. And by the way, after she gave Samuel to Eli, God gave her more children. And Samuel was the new firstborn. In fact, when Eli saw her, he saw her lips moving, but she could not understand what she was saying because she was speaking silently. And when he accused her of drunkenness, I'm talking about Eli accusing her, Hannah, of being drunk, she quickly proved that she was not. and then told him why she was praying, he pronounced a blessing on her. 1 Samuel 1:15, for instance. And Hannah answered and said, "No, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord." There was a thing that she was saying to him. I was praying to God. I was praying to God. The third thing I see is Hannah's commitment. I know mother's love. And I know that there are mothers here that probably will feel the same way as what I'm going to be saying. When you had your firstborn child, and somebody came along and said, "I want that child," would you give him up? Debbie shook her head yes. I don't know if you all heard it or not, but I did.
That was a joke.
It was a joke, I know it was. When Steve was born, I can remember this so well. We were living in a parsonage. We were afraid to put Steve on the floor in that particular parsonage because he would roll, because the floor was so uneven. Praise the Lord, they built a new parsonage right after we left. But her mother and dad came up. And as they were leaving to go back to Portsmouth, Ohio, her dad wrapped Steve up in a blanket. It was in the month of May. It looked to Vera, so you know that I get the firstborn of every child, every one of my kids. Vera loved her dad, but I thought she was going to really fight her dad for that. And it was really, I could see the love of a mother. As that deep as it goes. But she was true to that commitment she made. I'm sure it was hard. I'm sure it was one of the more difficult things, especially the fact that she took him home and fed him until he was weaned and could leave the home. Oh, well, that would have been under Jewish law, I don't know. But she was true to her commitment. The second chapter of the book of 1 Samuel shows her delight in what she did in a song that she was sung. And there's a very strong similarity between the song that she sung and the song that Mary, the mother of Jesus, sung. And she found out she was pregnant. And I think we as Christians, we've made a commitment to God. We gave our lives to God when we stood before a congregation and said, "I believe that Jesus is Christ, the Son of the living God. I accept Him as our Savior." We made a commitment to God when we were buried with Christ in Christian baptism. And that commitment was, we love Him. We keep His commandments. We made a commitment. And we better be true to the commitment that we made. I challenge you to go home and read 1 Samuel, the life of Hannah and her relationship with Samuel. Every year she would go back to Jerusalem and take Samuel home until he was full grown. But I think she gives an example of how we as Christians, ought to love one another and share together in the spirit of love. And I think the world needs to see it. The world needs to see it. We're going to be singing our song of invitation. Just as I am, is any here that needs to make a commitment to Christ? We invite you to come as we stand.